gentlemen, welcome to Center for Architecture and Metropolitan Planning. Welcome to camp and welcome to another edition of Urban Talks. Today with Studio JKMM. Usually in Urban Talks we introduce work of abroad architects and studios, and they share their practice with us, their projects, their approach, and you can usually ask questions. So that will be the same scenario today. After the lecture, you will have a chance to ask questions. If you would like to ask them in person, you will get a microphone so you can ask questions that you would like to. And if you don't want to ask questions in person, you would like to write them. And for you, if you are watching the stream, it works for you too. You can use Slido. Slido.com. There is a QR code. It's changing between the transcript, Wi-Fi password, and Slido. And if you use Slido.com in your browser, on your mobile phone, you can write there Urban Talks, hashtag Urban Talks, and you'll be able to ask questions and write them into a form, and I will see them on my tablet. So it will be possible to join the discussion after the lecture. Lecture will be held by Samuli Miettinen, creative partner and founding partner of JKMM from Finland, and we will talk about Scandinavian architecture that is inspiring all around the world, and especially here in Czech Republic, because thanks to successful competitions from last year, we have some ongoing realizations here in Prague, so it will somehow enrich the public space and surroundings of historical architecture here in Prague, and we will see how they will be connected together, so we can discuss even this topic today. So, Samuli, I would like to welcome you here, and I would like to gladly give you floor. Welcome to camp.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great to have you here. Thank you for your lecture. We are looking forward to it. And as I mentioned, after that, there will be a short discussion with you. So thank you for your time, for joining us in camp. It's yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be in Prague and give this talk. I've given it the title, The Human Form of Architecture, and a subtitle, Recipes for Well-being and Happiness, consisting of both architectural thinking and examples of our works, especially Tammela Hybrid Stadium and latest museums. Okay, 37 years ago in spring 1989, I visited Prague first time as a young student. These images have been taken back then in the older town near Tynsky Hram, okay, and over the old town from Ratskani, near Prague Castle. You could imagine what a strong experience for a young student it was. I still consider Prague as one of the most beautiful cities in Europe, especially people are really, really friendly. So, I comprehend architecture as a mental, immeasurable reality which originates from human desire, an architectural idea. In practical design, this immeasurable becomes measurable. The idea which holds shared significance can only come to life in the finished building. I think that architecture itself remains unsaid. However, architecture does affect the atmosphere and mood of the physical building experienced through our senses. I feel that the mental invisible reality runs parallel to the physical reality. It manifests in culture and our lives, for instance, in art, language, love, sorrow, and joy. Through these phenomena, I can recognize the spiritual reality that strongly binds me to community. For me, architecture moves along the boundary between the visible and invisible realities. In architecture, the intangible is connected to the material. Although architecture is a product of human spirit, its manifestation requires physical construction. As a practical architect, I strongly feel that in our time, commercially driven construction often lacks the human spiritual dimension. The form of such construction is closed, and it does not seek a real connection beyond itself. Our well-being is quite secondary in its eyes. Architecture has always had an unchanging starting point in the reality of human existence. Behind architecture are deep existential goals. This is evident even in early preserved human-modified places and dwellings. Architecture is the art of existence, the realization of the reality that is hoped for, what we hope for. I consider architecture is about events, a verb with an ethical dimension. It elevates life, especially when it considers the small person and strengthens the internal justice of the community. Architecture is about an event where culture and human space appear as vital and transformative. So, architecture has the power to change circumstances and create well-being. I see from history that architecture can also be used as a tool for ideology and reign, thereby having a paralyzing effect. An open work, artwork, which falls silent and leaves part of itself unspoken, creates a connection with the viewer, requiring them to complete the missing parts. In the silence of the work, the invisible reality is present. Through understanding this, the work becomes whole. The world is changing, and many people need immediate help and space to heal. Healing spaces support the sense of safety, which is primarily created by the surrounding community and good care. This Akola Manor is a protected historic country house in a municipality of in northwest Finland, bordering Lapland, our northern part of the country. It's built in 1796, and it represents a local timber interpretation of Swedish Gustavian style manor architecture. Located on the river, Akola has retained resident farmers to this day. The restoration was a personal project for one of our founding partners, Teemu Kurkela, who spent his childhood summers here in this place. Manor had fallen into despair, so the restoration was quite extensive, and the main restoration works took place 10 years ago, approximately. Local craftsmen and historic building specialists were used, as well as authentic traditional materials and building techniques. The aim was to achieve the longest possible lifespan for this manor new structure. The attic and roof were entirely rebuilt. Materials included massive local timber logs. The preservation strategy was to inject life into this narration. All authentic, historically evocative elements were left visible, untouched and without repair. Decisions regarding restoration were made based on how outstanding and intact original features were in the house. New layers of architecture create a unique, minimalistic atmosphere with wholly reconfigured spaces, specifically designed modern furniture, and a contemporary courtyard landscape. The ground floor has seen significant changes over the years, and as a result, its coherence as a period interior is compromised. The first floor has been largely retained as found to celebrate it as a record of its time, a bit like a ruin, and so salvaging, for example, areas with old wallpaper. In the 200-year-old windows, all original wood and cast glass were preserved and restored. Then Viikki Timber Church in Helsinki is an example of how to make a community building and create a heart for sustainable urban development. The church was built nearly entirely in wood, making it one of the few modern timber churches in Finland. The choice of wooden architecture minimizes the building's carbon footprint. Exteriors are clad in mechanically split aspen shakes to create a naturally water-repellent surface without using any chemicals. Exterior is modest, but interior warm. So our design combines Old Finnish traditional and modern architecture with industrial manufacturing processes. The building was designed economically using prefabrication, as you see on the image on the left side. The construction was executed with glulam and laminated veneer lumber technology. The prefabricated wooden components were joined into one architectural entirety. Interiors, clustered columns and beam expose tectonic nature of architecture. This evokes the atmosphere of Finnish forest. Radially shorn spruce has been used as a wall lining and flooring to achieve a uniform appearance and to retain durability as well. Due to the structural bracing, the wooden frame of the church allows only a few openings in the building envelope. Apertures are placed in thoughtful places. The exterior wall section on the right-hand side reveals the construction method. The load-bearing glulam, pilaster and beam structure determines the character of the interior. Radially sawn spruce boards are fixed on bracing LVL sheets. The aspen shake cladding nailed into the wooden wall elements has acquired a silver patina. Something about well-being then. Alvar Aalto stated that architecture worthy of culture requires a reconciliation of opposites, where physical and spiritual, technical and human perspectives merge into a creative whole. Architecture so combines technical, economical, cultural goals into one synthesis. A building can provide spaces for individual development, learning, and encounters supported by architecture. Future learning will become an interactive, collaborative, and network-based process. Finnish public libraries have over 200-year-long tradition. The library network covers whole country. So libraries offer a free and open space, encouraging people of all ages and backgrounds to engage with reading. Seinäjoki Library is located next to Alvar Aalto's most completed civic center on the left-hand side. Dividing the building into three masses helped to reconcile the large volume with the scale of the Aalto Center. It discreetly keeps distance from the outlines and materials of the old overall composition. Cenu EU is one of Finland's first new generation of libraries, mediatheks. They are no longer that's no longer about books only, but it has changed to become living rooms for citizens. People gather and meet each other. At the core of the new building's interior design is a large central reading terrace, a venue for events and place for spending time. It leads the visitors through a subterranean collection to the old library, which is designed by Alvarado. Large glazed facade frames generous views of the surrounding, opening up carefully designed vistas. Architectural space is created with the sculptural use of concrete. The building's load-bearing walls were cast on site. The folded shape of the walls is structural. The shade or texture of the concrete was not specified, but it was given what the pump truck gave us. Outside, the copper has been used quite extensively throughout the skin of the building, creating the impression of a sculpted character. A shingle-like appearance was designed specifically for this project, you see on the right-hand side. The identity of places is shaped by culture and community. I can see the most attractive places have a strong culture and vibrant community where architecture is also strongly present. Good architecture may act as a beacon guiding toward a brighter future. In its history, architecture has served as a platform for other forms of art and craftsmanship. It may become a central part of places' identity. The integration of art could make the environment approachable, comfortable, and collaborative. The primary goal is to help find the joy of life, even happiness. As part of a significant renovation project, we have refurbished a new urban space in the heart of Helsinki. The historic courtyard of over 200-year-old prestigious building and partly over 100-year-old high-rise buildings that was acting as a parking lot. The space is located next to Alvarado's bookstore, if you have visited Helsinki. The columns were lifted into place, fully assembled using a crane during the night in the middle image. Now it has been topped with a glass roof, creating a cozy experimental indoor space and transformed the space into a warm heart of the new premises. Supported by 4 large steel columns, inspired by natural forms, the sculptural glass roof provides a light counterpoints to the stone walls. So a vibrant urban space has come alive from morning until night. All glass elements are unique in this project. The columns have been painted with fire protection up to 8 meters from the floor, and the amount of steel has been minimized. The final solution is, at the same time, quite delicate, but sustainable when as little as possible material is used. So, the Tammela Stadium in the city of Tampere has functioned as a ball field since the beginning of 1930s. It was one of the first sport venues in Finland built purely for football. The city of Tampere wanted to keep the field in its location despite the designification of the area. The detailed plan was three-dimensional for this project. It had its passionate supporters and opponents during the detailed plan phase. Involving city residents in the planning process was still quite positive experience. The transformation of historic sports venue into hybrid football stadium was eagerly anticipated for the promoters of the project. In a hybrid building, the functions and the structures intertwine. The work was completed 2 years ago. We integrated the structures in vertical way, but separated them in horizontal way. Here you see it on the right-hand side. As containing many functions, the stadium is like a miniature city. A nearly 50,000 square meter block consists of 8 interconnected plots, including the highest UEFA category football stadium, residential buildings with 256 apartments, a commercial center in the basement, and retail facilities, and a 229 space parking places, none of which are for the visitors of the sport venues. This mix and the way the pitch is hidden between housing units ensures that the area remains active and welcoming every day. Our key strategy was to respect and enhance the existing urban fabric and community. The stadium is not an isolated monument, but part of the city block, with a roof arching carefully over the building. We separated the stadium and housing structures technically, but unified them architecturally. Sound and noise insulation were carefully designed so that events do not disturb residents, which enabled year-round use of football, concerts, and events. The character of the building adapts to the geometry and scale of the urban space. The pitch is positioned in a north-south direction, neutrally exposed to the evening sun. Curved canopies allow daylight to shine onto the field and the north side schoolyard. Here. The residential courtyards are raised on the roof between the apartment masses. The curved roof is a distinctive feature of the stadium. The shape repeats the structure of suspended canopies. Architecture is based on structural forms and tectonics of steel construction. Coordinating the roof installation, especially the southern and northern canopies and their steel cable suspension, were particularly complex in this project. The glass wall structures of the hanging end canopies protect the court from the wind, but maintain the connection with the environment. They are flexible against the forces of wind and snow, both vertically and horizontally. The new stadium brings football culture to the heart of the city, where spectators come from different directions by public transportation, and the match ticket is the valid on public transport. That's the sustainable issue in this project. It hosts up to 8,000 seated spectators or 15,000 during concerts. We aim to create a stadium that belongs to the neighborhood with a strong identity and vibrant street life. It was essential for us to design not just a venue, but a landmark embedded in everyday life that enlivens the city culture. Every seating position in the stadium offers an unobstructed view of the entire pitch, when canopies protects the stands on all sides. The arrangement raises the atmosphere of the stadium. The stands rise directly from the edges of the pitch. The audience can circulate freely on the second floor around the stadium. Don't forget to play, said Alvar Aalto. I consider that our task as an architect is not just to be a designer, but to be responsible for creating spaces that support human life and cultural interaction. This Chappe is a new art museum by the sea on the southern coast of Finland in the historic town of Tammisaari, which was founded in 1546, and it's known for its timber architecture, dating back to the 18th century. A popular summer destination, Tammisaari punches above its weight in terms of its cultural offer. Located in the museum quarter in the heart of the old town, Chappe is an addition to this mix of cultural attractions. The notion of locality is an essential part of its architecture, with the sculptural form of the building woven into its neighborhood, creating a distinctly contextual landmark. In the middle, the spruce plank facade connects the modern building to the city's traditional structure. The detailing of the elevation emphasizes the importance of craft and how this works its way into a wholly contemporary architectural idiom. We have expressed the timber structure of the building as a way of introducing tactility and warmth into the top floor galleries. The building will also host events and community uses in addition to housing museum-grade exhibitions. The carefully considered views from within the building also tie it to its setting with the framed vistas of the sea and the old town. We have worked closely with artists on pieces that work as part of this building's architecture. We also collaborated with a local carpenter to create furniture made from old elm felt on site. Amos Rex is an art museum located in the heart of Helsinki, and the project consists of two parts: a new subterranean museum and the renovation of the 1930s listed building, Lasipalatsi. This is Lasipalatsi, and underneath is the art museum. Exhibition spaces. Amos Rex rethinks the urban park as part of our museum experience. The new art museum refines and structures the location at the old square, giving it a new identity as the focus of lively urban culture, a new social space. The domes form an undulating landscape for people to enjoy, especially children. Different site spaces are perfect for events or just hanging out. The floor plans show the building's spatial structure. The exhibition spaces are excavated beneath an open courtyard, which historically have served both as a military training ground and lately as a bus station. Here in these Amos sketches, the domes contain skylights that introduce natural light into the galleries below, as well as carefully selected views of life above the ground. Servicing takes place through an existing underground tunnel. There. Exhibition visitors arrive through the lobbies of the old building, here and there. In the section on the left-hand side, you can see the principle of the structure. The old heating plant chimney in the middle now functions as part of the building's ventilation system. Museum structure is built with large concrete domes cast on site. This principle is functional for museum use. It allows long column-free spans and quite flexible exhibition spaces below. And on the right-hand side, you see the steel cone structure that is supported from the reinforced concrete cupolas. Thermal burglar-resistant glazing is structural, and this unique flower-shaped landscape paving is of 3 inches thick concrete tiles assembled on thick cement base and stone dust bed. And the old Lasipalazzi building was restored, respecting its valuable modern era interiors and details. By adding a bold new layer to this special site, we feel we are connecting past with the present. We wanted the project to appear as a seamless extension of an existing museum space very much of its time. The ultimate aspiration of architecture is to support the joy of life. Good architecture includes elements that evoke feelings of joy and even laughter. As Alvar Aalto said, don't forget to play, meaning that architecture should encourage creativity and lead to action. The National Museum of Finland is in the heart of Helsinki, next to the Parliament and opposite Alvar Aalto's Finlandia Hall. The existing building from the year 1908 is considered a national romantic style masterpiece by architects Herman Geselius, Armand Lindgren and Eliel Saarinen. In 2019, we won the International Public Architectural Competition for the annex of this museum with the motto Atlas. And this year, nearly 120-year-old main building will be accompanied by impressive new underground annex. The defining feature of the design is a monumental structure that forms the main entrance to the museum with its monolithic, cantilevered, ceramic-clad roof and curved glass windows. As a round object, the new above-ground entrance pavilion has the diameter of 43 meters, the very same size as the interior of the Pantheon in Rome. The sequence of spaces from the old museum through glass-covered courtyard, underground, to the bright lobby of the new building, and to the new dark exhibition spaces is the spatial backbone of this concept. The roof is the cap of a large sphere with a diameter of over 500 meters, and it stands on structural contact surface diameter of which is only 3 meters here. The floor plans clearly show the contrast in character between the old and the new building. The rectangularity of the old and the circularity of the new. The section in the middle reveals how the load-bearing prism of the roof bowl descends all the way into the rock cavern. Resolving the spatial complexity of the first ground on the right-hand side, in particular, was crucial to achieving a simple final result for this project. Above the ground, there will be a year-round public garden. Underneath, the spaces are sculpted into the earth with a generous stepped foyer leading the visitors into the exhibition and event spaces. The surface of the bowl will be covered with over 5,000 glazed ceramic tiles. It forms a continuous twisting pattern that is woven from 3 interlocking standardized elements uniquely designed for this building: a cross, a clover, and a heart. The architecture is pretty simple, universal, and even primeval in its concept. The new annex of the National Museum will transform the museum into a modern landmark to house Helsinki's largest exhibition spaces. The bowl of the new annex the triangles are connected from the center points of these flowers composed by 3 hearts. So in a way, it reminds me that it's the love that binds us together. The foundation for the Finnish Museum of Architecture and Design, financed by the city of Helsinki and the state of Finland, arranged an international design competition for a new museum building on a seashore lot of national significance. The competition searched a design for a distinctive museum building that will celebrate the rich heritage of our design and architecture on a global scale. 624 proposals were sent to the competition, and 5 of them were selected to the second phase of the competition. The result of this anonymous competition was revealed in the beginning of last fall. And I will show you now briefly how we composed our design proposal. The ambitions and demands of the brief were extremely high, and the lot was really tight on all directions. If somebody of you might have done this competition, you surely know it. Construction was limited also upwards and downwards. Here you'll see the very first sketches of the proposal. I focused on drawing the proposal through once, even though I knew it would not meet all the competition's objectives, nor my own. We call this kind of method and this phase shit project. The result was quite stiff and far too large. Nevertheless, this is really an important phase. Once a plan has been fully drawn and tested, even if the outcome is not good, it becomes still much easier to improve upon what already exists. Because of this, I had to go back sketching the proposal from the scratch. Triangular central space and descent into the basement were the insight that resolved the main functional and cityscape targets. Placing spaces below the entrance level would reduce the building's overall mass and allow the ground floor to remain open. Despite its challenging shape, the triangular exhibition space was quite distinctive, so it could even be glimpsed from the street, which added significant value. Then the next phase was to give the building its identity. What kind of place would the building want to become? The roofs of the neighboring buildings curved inward from the eaves line. Reflected in the water, they appeared as an inverted, truncated pyramids. So we tilted the facade walls outwards and divided the mass into two parts along the floor level. One split in two, the tilts formed the natural theme, architectural theme for this project. Triangular openings repeating according to the tilt angle of the walls felt then quite natural. They also made it possible to divide the mass into the parts, like a building block game. The second phase guidelines of the competition were thorough and extensive and contained accurate sustainability targets. We opened the facade to make the building alluring and inviting and developed the proposal structurally. With the help of our structural engineer, we succeeded in resolving the structure without columns, using load-bearing walls and stair cores and cantilevers. The structure creates an illusion of defying gravity. The public outdoor spaces connect openly with the interiors, from which broad views open toward the landscape and the city. Upon entering the low multipurpose lobby, a triangular central space opens upward towards the skylight. Beneath it is the staircase leading down. Here. An entrance here from the northern side of the building. So the triangular exhibition space is entered from the bottom of the staircase. The space rises partly to the full height of the building. Here. And receives top light through the central space. The main spatial composition in which the triangular form dictates by the site is transformed into the rectangular geometry, serves the appropriateness of functions, neutrality of the exhibition, and even spaces and the liveliness of the public spaces. At the same time, the nature of the composition creates a rich variety of connections between spaces, both along the circulation path and across its radius here, around and also across its radius. Another key insight of the second competition stage included improving the exhibition circulation and dividing the building mass into sections through new terraces. The balcony zone connecting them forms an external route, a kind of mini excursion from which the city can be admired when going around the building. At the upper end of the exhibition floor, a view opens towards the sea in the middle. And the exhibition spaces are designed to be flexible and fit for purpose. So we don't want to tease the users. They accommodate diverse exhibitions and wide range of events. Acoustic, audiovisual, lighting, and electrical solutions can easily be integrated within the structural framework of the ceilings. And triangular openings afford views to the city, yet can be blacked out when needed. The new museum aims to be a place where the visitors can learn and understand better how design and architecture support more sustainable societies. The museum building should itself be a tangible example and a generator of sustainable construction where all design choices have been studied from the perspective of environmental impact as part of a large ecosystem and to adapt and mitigate the climate change. Green concrete and steel and recycled bricks of the facade masonry are the core of the structural solution of the project. And our project is both general and specific. It takes its place as part of the city, respecting its structure, lines, and tones. At the same time, it seeks to be a special place with its own purpose and meaning, resolving and reconciling this tension between the general and the specific was the central task of the architectural competition. I consider it very strongly. Our proposal drives to rethink the museum for future society, local communities, and international audiences. It presents a new building typology, a museum that is a house of design for everyone. It's a house for learning, working and creating, a house for joy, communication and interaction, a house for contemplation, relaxation and restoration, a house for study, research and understanding, a house for design, architecture and construction. The architecture of the new museum carries a shared memory containing cultural, emotional and scenic connotations. The distinct yet subtle architecture builds a new inspiring and inviting layer for the identity of the area we hope. The design for the museum is intriguing and discreetly sculptural. The inclined faces, divided massing, and levitating heaviness gave birth to appealing impressions. The concept enables rethinking the museum and creates a unique public attraction. Hopefully, it strengthens Helsinki as a unique cultural destination. I welcome you. We believe that it has great potential to become a new icon of the city. It surely was a challenging task, taking 1.5 years, but also a great joy to play together with my design group and my fellow architects. It was no one-man show. And now the work continues with the client, user, and our design group. So, even in the best architecture, there's always a presence of both imperfection and the striving for perfection. The unfinished is familiar to life itself, as in cities that are in constant transformation. At their best, their structure allows for continuous living human change to occur. Henri Cartier-Bresson wrote a thought of photography which applies well to architecture as well. He said that it is putting one's head, one's eye, and one's heart on the same axis. True architecture strives to create a complete human form, a balanced and harmonious design that serves. Ultimately, the most impactful architecture emerges when it embodies the qualities of goodness, truth, and beauty. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the lecture. As I understand it well, when you enter any museum in Helsinki, it's designed by you. Yeah.
Well, we have been lucky.
Or you know the formula. You know how to approach Helsinki and Finland in a way to bring art closer to the people. I've seen this project and the National Museum and the museum that you showed us, the Museum of Architecture and Design, and they have something in common, that they are, you know, they have an image. The building has its shape, its identity, but there's also a detail on an eye level, on a way when you touch the building, you have a feeling of the monument on your. When you're meeting the building, is it something that is important for you in a special way? Because we can see that there is a cladding that is some kind of original for the building. We have seen that on the ceiling of the National Museum, and there are bricks in the Museum of Architecture and Design. Is it something that is specific for your approach?
Architecture should work in every scale. And it's craftsmanship as well. So it's not only a concept that we have to carry the whole design into the finished building. We have to compose buildings out of some elements. And so those elements have significance, how they meet each other. Architecture of joints, architecture of objects in a way, where it's composed from. Details are really important for us. It's in our tradition. Finnish and Nordic architecture is still very conservative in methods we are designing. So we do the whole scope of work, from the concept till the very final detail. And maybe this has something to do with that we think the whole project through and design and throw it through. So we have to take into account all the pieces through the project. I don't know if it's specialty of ours. It's kind of ideal for our architecture mainly, but we have also interior architects, 50-20 of them in our office, so they might have also something to do with it.
Especially for this project, Amos Rex, what was the assignment of the competition, in a meaning that this conclusion is very original, it's very unexpected. I was like, when you showed me that this is the building and that there is a building beneath it, I was interested what was the assignment of the competition that this is the result.
Yeah, well, we are 4 partners in our former founder partners in our office, and we've been working together this year 40 years. So I was still a teenager when I started to study architecture. And we learn from each other. In this particular building, so this was Amos' handwriting, not mine. But as I understand it, its architecture is colliding opposite targets. And when you collide opposite targets, you might create some synergy. And in this building, the target was to make flexible exhibition spaces, but also functional social space. And Asmo was struggling how to make it happen, and this was the end result.
Architects usually present these semi-public spaces on the buildings like, okay, people will enjoy them and they will spend some time there. And I'm most interested if these spaces work as you expected. Is it something like that you plan that people will sit there, or is it something surprising for you how people use the space?
I think that was originally the aim, and that was the way it was marketed also for the city planner and the client. And well, you know, the most crucial factor in architecture is the client. You have to have good client. And always the client gets the kind of building he deserves. And a good client then gets a good building. So it's that easy in a way. Of course, you need a bit of an architect there as well. But
And there is a question on Slido. Where do you see the architecture of Helsinki evolving? Is there something missing in the city that you would like to see more of?
Very good question. There might be some breaking of old ideals that shouldn't happen. Especially in the last few years, when the market heated over, so too dense areas with too little greenery were built. Hopefully the market changes and impacts also planning strategies in the future, while you have to consider more the sizes of the buildings and also sustainable criteria.
I would like to ask you if you have any questions. Anyone? You can raise your hand and you will have a chance. Yes? Thank you. Oh, okay. So you will be the next one.
This one will be a little bit more technical, but I'm curious, what was the technology you used for the building that there were no columns? So if you can specify that, or if it was just basic technology of this type of buildings.
Yeah, you talk about the AD Museum.
I guess so.
Or,
it was with
or the new national
huge,
one.
wide window.
Yeah, let's see. This one.
Maybe you mean the one with the ball on the top?
No, this one. This one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new national one with the bowl. So it's a water tower technology, you know. But maybe if we had the same structural engineer in many of our buildings, and he's the wizard. So that's part of the technology. Let's go maybe the section. If I get the section here.
Yes, that's this.
Yep. So in the floor plan, you will see that there are the elevator and staircase shafts approximately here, and then there will be cross beams on two levels, and then the outer walls will be post-tensioned, and the post-tensioned concrete walls will keep it up like a backpack.
So it's stretched before. It's like the
some of them are stretched The cross beams are pre-stressed, and the walls are post-stressed.
Okay,
and then there's also an opposite weight on the other side of the vertical structural lines, so that it will diminish the stressing for the structure. 80% of the concrete we try to use green one, so we will buy carbon dioxide from Denmark and then put it back to the concrete.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next question was here. Yeah. Welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. In comparison with the previous person, I have a more abstract question. Well, you told that the architecture should collide and create synergy, and you also told that client playing a major role in, well, architecture design. But if we, well, forget the role of the client, in your opinion, what architecture should represent? Should it represent the reality, I mean the situation, a political situation or social situation, or it should represent the vision of the author, of the vision of architect who creates this, well, architecture? Thank you.
As Ludwig Wittgenstein said, architecture should elevate life. Architecture emerges where is something to elevate. And so, where's nothing to elevate, there's no architecture.
You also mentioned that the museum, the Museum of Architecture and Design, is designed for future society. Could you open that more? What do you mean? What did building offer to someone who is still not here, who still don't know what this building can offer him right now, and what will do it for them?
Yeah, the architecture is happening. It's an event. It's a continuation of action of users and we people. So it does mean that the building itself is a pedagogic tool for the museum organization, and how they act in the building is the key. They are in a key role. How they are able to help people to understand the purpose of design and architecture and the significance and benefits of it. So, and it as I tried to tell, that it's a multi-use building in that way, that there's some different layers how to work and act and be in that building. So hopefully that is a proper answer.
Okay, another question, anyone? Yes, welcome.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. I heard a lot of your projects, but especially the stadium in Tampere. And I have two questions. I like it especially because it combines two seemingly uncombinable typologies, the football field and apartment housing. Are there any more seemingly impossible combinations of typologies that you would like to try out, or you seem like could be doable, or something like this? And the second one is from technical standpoint. Were there any significant design changes to the project because of the acoustics or any other technical elements? Thank you.
I haven't got the answer for the first one, because technically it wasn't a challenge in any way. You just needed a public actor as city of Tampere, as an stakeholder to guide and coordinate and demand all the other stakeholders not to argue, but to stay on the track. The structures are separated, and the roof goes all over it, so it's just technical design in a way. So, but yeah, it's interesting how it has emerged such an interest in such a easy way, and that somehow gives hope that it's actually possible everywhere. You just need to collaborate truly, and after that it's possible in all typologies, I would say, more or less. And technically it was pretty easy. Actually, the sound insulation was just to create a 50 millimeter cap between the stadium structures and the residential building structures, and that was it. Also the enough massing, of course, for sound insulation, but because it has canopies and walls on all sides, the sound produced inside the stadium stays nearly there. It doesn't escape. So actually, the hardest part was the democratic and to make contracts and agreements within with stakeholders and keep them.
We actually have a very similar project in Prague. Not similar, like it's a stadium and Bohemians, the home stadium of famous footballer Panenka. It's in the middle of the residential area, and there is a project that is like it has same foundation, like recreate something in the middle of the residential area, combine it with something else, and create part of the city that is not here right now, but could be. And when I shared it on Twitter, it was a hit tweet because it was very popular. I shared your project, and people have seen that as an inspiration for the stadium here in Prague, and they really liked it. And I think it could offer something to the dwellers around, because now it's, even if it's small stadium, you walk around white walls. There is nothing for you if there is not a match. If there is not much happening, you just go around white walls. But the stadium that you showed us, it has an eye level for anyone who go around. Even if there are no concert, if there is no football match, there are shops and everything, and these shops are there even if there is a match. It means that you are waiting in line for tickets or something, you have places to buy something, you have places to watch, to do window shopping or whatever. Is it the thing that brings something new to the neighborhood, or if there are more benefits for people who already live here? Is it what brought to the people who knew the stadium as the original one, but now there is something new for them? What is it?
I must a bit continue the previous one, that of course I must say that, for example, our design group was really talented, and they struggled a lot with the solutions, structures, and all combining, and also building permit procedure and detailed planning took time, and there were claims and discussions and things like that. Of course, those were challenging, but they can be everywhere and they can be overcome. But for your question, so it's interesting how with right kind of gestures which have been tuned up just properly, you are able to achieve the kind of situation which heals the environment, integrates it, and creates a new vistas and atmosphere for the environment. So it's, in a way, it's first you have to know what to do. That's the most important thing. And when you know what to do, that gives you tools how you do it. It's to keep this order is important.
Okay, so I will ask you if you have any questions. Yes? Thank you.
Thank you. You said that sustainability is very important for you, but when I look at your big projects like the museums, for example, the Amos Rex, it looks very complicated and complex, and also very expensive. And also you mentioned that a lot of the details are unique and were specially designed for you. So how you try to balance these two values?
That's a good question. I think we do a lot of housing, for example, as well, and all typologies. Now I gathered you some, maybe the most prominent public projects we've done. We still, I think we are pretty experienced in cultural and societal sustainability, but ecological sustainability, we are hoping to create market. We are taking baby steps, and I admit that. But surely, I would say we've experienced in being economical. They might look expensive, but they are not actually. But of course, it's relative. But for example, the Seinäjoki Library was only 2,000 euros per cross square meter, but it was already 15 years ago. So it's always up to the market circumstances and so. But we are struggling a lot with constructors and in a good way, and also with consultants, how we achieve the economical target, and try to find other options how to realize them more economically, and so.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any questions? We have one on Slido, so we can continue. There is a question on Slido that is focused on design. To like some of your designed buildings might seem on the verge of brutalism. How do you make design that stays joyful and persists centuries?
How it is joyful and stays for...
And persists centuries, yeah.
And stays like that for centuries. Okay. I don't know about the future. I don't have answer for that, but we try our best. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Still, we always try to. We're not thinking that what kind of architecture we want to create, but how the architecture wants to emerge in a certain place, or how it wants to create a place. So it comes out of the context and the brief, mainly. We think about social, cultural issues. We wish that these are the ingredients that create a platform where then people bring the joy in, of course. But it's all about also the function. Of course, it's easier to make a more joyful building out of library than jail, for example.
You mentioned that you don't know future, of course, and sometimes it's not challenge to persist the centuries, but be right at the place and at the time when you build the building, so in present. And it means that it has to fit the community. And you mentioned there is such an importance of community, that the community is a definition of the quality of the place, that you can define it by the quality of the community. Sometimes the place doesn't have to be designed very well, but if there is a community that is healthy, it works well. You can feel it, you can see it, it's really difficult to explain it. But what is your approach when you try to fit in it? You find this stadium is on a local level. It is not like the museum that communicates on a nation level. This stadium is part of the neighborhood. And same as the church that you showed us, this is something that has to withstand the opinions of the neighborhoods, of the dwellers that are there. What is the first approach when you try to find out what will work with them and how you can bring them some quality into your life?
It's better to have an example and try to explain it through example. So the taller masses are darker red. And they are positioned so that on the other side of the street, there is a hole between the taller towers. And we tried to do it on the other side as well. So we wanted to create and preserve the vistas from and to the building, so from the existing buildings, between the new masses, and also from new masses through the existing halls, for example. Also, the curved canopy, it's a structural shape, but there's a schoolyard, and by doing this kind of lowering of the mass, we allow sunshine on the schoolyard of the building. So it's minor decisions and larger decisions. Architecture is continuation and sequence of demanding multitude of demanding tasks, or minor or larger. Well, this is just an example of it, but I hopefully it makes more sense than give some philosophical general
Okay, thank you.
point.
Any other questions? Anyone? Feel free to continue with the discussion. I mentioned at the beginning that thanks to some competitions that happened in Prague in the last 5 years, we will have an experience of Scandinavian architecture in Prague. It will be part of the city. And what do you think that it can bring to us? How it will enrich Prague, this touch of Scandinavian art and architecture? you have seen the city, you have seen how it changed from the revolution, you have seen how it looks right now, you can see some examples of contemporary architecture here in the city center. What do you think that it will bring to us? Do you think that we will like it, we would like to have a more, or we would like to understand it as a period of some...
Well, you have diversity of architecture, you have richness of architecture, you have beautiful old buildings, monuments, you have masterful modern style, functionalistic as we call them in Nordics areas. You have a tradition of architecture of your own. So there's some good basis to build on. And we have learned a lot from Czech architecture and Central European as well. If Nordics has something to give, it's maybe the simpliness of design, resource wiseness of design, less is more kind of thing, and the social aspect, how to create places which connect people and bring people together. These kind of ideas I wanted to share with you today.
Do you have any other question? The last one maybe? I will check if we have some on Slido. There is none. So anyone? Yes?
Thank you for the lecture. You mentioned that you're 4 founding partners in the company, and as I understood, for example, the last project you presented, it's mostly your work, or you are like, not saying that you're the only one designing it, but is it that you have, let's say, different roles throughout the process of the building, or always the architect who's in the concept stays throughout the whole building process?
Yeah, we originally are the 4 founding partners. Then we have 9 minor stakeholders, and of course we try to do teamwork and get best out of it. Be democratic in that way, and flat organization and horizontal decision making. And people have their different strengths, and I often say that I'm in the first step of my uncompetitiveness, or how to put it, so incompetitiveness. So and the young architects, and they are really skillful, and they have all the softwares they can manage. Yeah, we did 4 entries for the competition because it was once in a quarter of a century or such. There was previous competition 25 years ago, and actually we won that as well. But it was never realized. That was mainly one other partner's project, but we always put our names together under the project. In this one, we discussed a lot. We made 4 entries and shared the ideas, but each of us had a group of his own. And so my entry was lucky to proceed, but I also made a really good cooperation with a young architect whose forename is Samuli as mine as well. So we're like 2 Samulis, and the guys in the office said that there was Samuli's radio talking all over because we were negotiating and discussing so that everybody was hearing what we were talking about, architecture and how we solved this problem. This was really fruitful, really fruitful. That was the case. As I showed you that I had to start all over again, one night shift, and I found the basis for the new concept. And there was only 3 weeks left anymore for the competition. And then with the other Samuli, so together we found it. I've noticed that sometimes when you are able to discuss with with other people. Even though they are silent, I just talk and draw at the same time. It helps me to find the reasoning, and not only also the feeling, right feeling and mood for the project. So it's the discussion is really important. Cooperation, collaborative is important, but of course it has to be fruitful. You have to achieve the targets you are aiming for.
So last question, anyone? So maybe I have one. According to everything that's happening in the world and the crisis that we have in the meaning of the housing and in the meaning of the climate and everything, and you still like your job, you still like to learn new things. What do you think is the biggest question right now in architecture that you think might influence your work in future? What do you think is the next challenge for you architects, and especially for your studio and your practice?
We surely know it's the climate change. That just is. It is. We have to understand and act accordingly, and also shift our aesthetic values accordingly, I think. But it doesn't mean maybe that it turns turnover, or what do you call that it changes totally the business. It just has to be made with less energy and with sustainable energy and sustainable materials. You have to know where the materials and energy comes from and where they end up to. But still, if buildings are loved, they are kept and they are preserved.
Thank you. Samuli Miettinen. It is the long one. You were good.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for attention.
having
And as usually, the record of the lecture will be on our YouTube. So thank you for visiting camp. Enjoy the rest of the evening. And as I would like to remind you, follow our program, because till June we still have something to offer you before the camp will move somewhere else. So enjoy camp.